Hello, and welcome. Welcome to 5 tips to improve your sight reading for oboists. You may feel flummoxed by sight reading. It may be very anxiety provoking for you to find yourself in a sight reading situation. You are not alone. Many musicians feel the exact same way about sight reading. And it's the place that I used to be. I have to say that now I really love sight reading. So I just want to share today some strategies to help make sight reading more enjoyable for you. My name is Erin Brophy. I am the principal oboe player of the Saskatoon Symphony and a sessional lecturer at the University of Saskatchewan. Thank you for joining me today. The reason I'm doing these presentations has a lot to do with how I got started on the oboe. I'm from a very remote place in Canada, a beautiful place full of rocks, trees, and lakes. And it was a lovely place to grow up until I started to play the oboe. And then I suddenly felt like I lived in a very remote place because I did not have access to another oboe player, someone that could help me on my oboe journey. I really struggled. I didn't have access to a functioning instrument, to functioning reeds, or to good information. And there were many times in my early years as an oboist that I almost gave up. It was just too frustrating. But now we have this amazing resource called the internet. And I reflect that, and I help oboe players now. You know, if you fast forward 25 years, I feel so grateful that I make my living playing the oboe. And I help oboe players now, and I reflect that my journey just did not have to be that difficult. I didn't have to struggle that way, which is why I'm doing these presentations, is that I just want good information to get out there, and I don't want you to have to struggle the way that I did. It's also why I created an online oboe education program called the Oboe Path, which breaks down the steps necessary in order to improve on the oboe. It uses a group online masterclass, personalized feedback, and a customized plan to enable an oboist to play with joy and ease. Through the group online masterclass, an oboe player joins a community of like-minded oboists all looking to improve. This helps with accountability and inspiration to practice. With the personalized plan, an oboe player can fit learning the instrument into their busy life. And with one-on-one feedback, an oboe player goes to every practice session knowing exactly what they need to practice so they see the results immediately. So let's get to it. 5 tips to improve your sight reading for oboists. So the first thing I want to talk to you about, the first tip, is that I want you to understand that sight reading feels uncomfortable. and that's okay. As musicians, we practice things and we get better at them. So we're therefore under the impression that we require that practice in order to feel comfortable with our music. And I think that when we function from that space, the idea of sight reading can be quite terrifying. I think that many oboists think that they're a really bad sight reader because sight reading doesn't feel very good. When they're able to take a step back, what they often see is actually they're not bad at sight reading. It just feels like your brain is moving very quickly, quicker and less calmly than it is if you're playing music that you're familiar with, that you've rehearsed. So sight reading is something that by its nature is uncomfortable. And if you can just embrace that it's not perhaps that you're a bad sight reader, it's just that you don't like the feeling of being uncomfortable. But who does? So there's just part of sight reading is being a little uncomfortable and doing something that's difficult. That doesn't mean that you're bad at it, or that it has to be something that uncomfortable is different from anxious. It's okay if it's uncomfortable. The second thing I would encourage you to do when you're sight reading is to literally, and this is an analogy for life if there ever was one, is stay in the moment. If you're sight reading, your brain really doesn't have time to go through what just happened. If you made an error in the previous measure, if you spend any of your current brain space thinking about that error, you're sunk. Sight reading is literally something that you need to stay in the moment and be exactly where you're at. If you can look slightly ahead, maybe, but be where you are. It's certainly not looking backwards. That's one of, I think for myself, one of my greatest pitfalls is thinking about what I just did rather than staying in the moment. And I think that's why sight reading can be really good for your playing, because it helps you stay in that moment. The third thing that I would like to talk to you about is take as much time as you can. So if you're in a sight reading situation, and this has happened to me a couple of times in my professional life where I've had to sight read a concert, or a situation was less than ideal and I had to sight read a high pressure rehearsal, take as much time as you can muster. In that situation, really take control of your time and sit with the music and look at it as long as you possibly can. If you're in a school situation and you're a testing situation where you're needing to sight read, what I used to do when I was in music school, and I allow my students to do, is when I was in school, I would take as much time as the instructor would give me. I would wait for them to say, okay, now, and then I would jump into sight reading. And it's something that when I'm teaching sight reading, I always say to my students, take as much time as you want. You tell me when you're ready. Because I want them to have the space to literally organize some of the music in their mind. And so if you can don't feel that if you're given sight reading, you have to do it right in that second. That you have a moment to breathe, you have a moment to look at the part, and that's going to help you feel a lot more in control. The fourth thing I'm going to talk to you about with sight reading is that the rhythm is paramount. If you have to make a choice between all the things, rhythm is first. Certainly we want right notes. Dynamics, awesome. Phrasing, beautiful. But the first thing you have to produce is the rhythm. And so when you're looking at sight reading, you really want to lean into what is this meter? How many beats are in each bar? What is getting the beat? Make sure that you understand that. And I wanted to show you today something that I do when I'm sight reading. In fact, I do this a lot when I'm preparing music. Is kind of a shorthand I use. So if I'm handed sight reading, I always have a pencil. And if there's a measure that seems to be a particular challenge, I'm going to show you today what I do. So I have a prop. Let me get the prop. Oh, you know what? I'm going to put my oboe down so I don't drop it. Expensive piece of equipment. So I wrote out some rhythms today. Some like not so fun rhythms. And I wanted to show you, it's very simple, and this helps me immensely when I'm sight reading. I think at a certain stage of development as a musician, you really need to understand how meter works, and you need to understand where the beats are. And if you're at that stage in your development, then I would encourage you to write in the beats. So if you're in 3/4 time or 4/4 time, you want to write in 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, where the beats are. If that isn't your stage of development and you do have a good understanding of meter, then this tip that I'm going to share with you could help you a good deal. It's something I use all the time. It's very visual, and it helps me stay in the meter wherever I am. I find it particularly helpful if meters are changing. And let me show you. It's a very simple thing, which is I simply slash where the beats are so that I can read the beats as the music is moving along. So in this 3/4 time, basically I'm just going to put where the 3 beats are, and I'm going to do it on top, and I just use slashes at the beginning of the beat. So that's 1, 2, 3. I find that much easier to read at this stage of understanding of music than to read 1, 2, 3. I find I attribute, it just takes me to a different part of my brain. This is very helpful for me. So looking at the second bar, I'm going to put the second beat right above the rest and the third beat. And then this is the first beat, second beat, third beat. So if I have the opportunity when I'm sight reading, I'll do this really quickly. Now I'm using red today and blue, which I just realized is the colors that I'm wearing as well. That wasn't on purpose. I just do this in pencil, and I keep the slashes pretty small. I try not to slash into the music because I don't want it to interfere with me being able to read a line, and I just put it above. This helps me a good deal. I'm going to show you what it looks like in 4/4 time. So here we have a 3 against 2. So this helps me read the 3 against 2. This is beat 3, this is beat 4, and then we have a rest, and then a triplet, and then 2 beats on this measure, and this is 1, 2, 3. This helps me count that, and then there's 1. I find the slashes so helpful, and I hope you do too. Let me get the prop out of the way. So, and my oboe. The last thing I wanted to talk to you about is, I think this is maybe the most important thing of what I've shared today, is my 5th tip for improving your sight reading, which is to do it more often. We have a tendency to find ourselves in sight reading situations that are stressful. The way to prepare for those sight reading situations that are stressful are to literally practice sight reading. So I know there's 100 things on your list of things to practice, but if you can donate a couple of minutes to just reading something, better if you can do the reading with a friend, so that you can be held accountable for your rhythm. Either they're going to give you feedback, or maybe you're both sight reading together, or do it for a teacher, so that you get a sense as to what you need to do in order to produce your best sight reading. What are the steps that you need to walk through in order to produce the best sight reading? And if you do it often enough, you start to realize that you have some skill at doing it, that it's not an impossibility. You start to have some confidence in being able to sight read what is put in front of you. It really does, and that also has an impact on the rest of your playing, because then you have some confidence about your ability to interpret the music. So I would strongly encourage you to step down the sight reading path. Step down this path. It will help you on your journey with the instrument. Now, that being said, one of the things as oboe players that I, if I'm going into a sight reading situation, something I want to remove from the equation is how my read is working. Because I don't want to be worried about that while I'm trying to do something musical. So I want to make sure that I'm choosing the best read possible. And so I offer to you that if you would like to learn about my process to choose a better oboe read. So this is the process that I go through in order to choose an oboe read for practicing, or for a concert, or for a sight reading situation. I offer you a free training underneath this video. It's a PDF and a downloadable video that walks you through how to use the PDF, so that you can choose a better read for your concerts, and bring more beauty to your community. Let's all become the oboe players that we are meant to be. The oboe players that everyone wants to play with. Play the oboe with joy and ease. I'll see you next time. Take care.